Is about ideas to action. One of the things this phrase does is make you believe that the ideas are okay, all we need is action. Well, that's not exactly true. It's like the saying, follow your dreams. Well, if your dreams aren't the right ones, please don't follow them. In other words, if your dream is you want to be a serial killer, it would not end well. In the same way that ideas, not all ideas are good. So if you fundamentally don't have a good idea, it's not going to work. The question then becomes, what is a good idea? How do you define a good idea? And it's really not that complicated. Everything we do in our organizations are simple. So the idea has to be, is it useful? And second, is it simple to execute? If those two things aren't there, it's not a good idea. For example, there's lots of solutions. When people speak of ideas, they mean solutions. There's lots of solutions. For example, me and a bunch of people, throughout the country could lose a few pounds, and it's a problem. Now, if you say to us, well, really, just eat less, exercise more. It sounds great, but it's ridiculous. It's not a solution. This is a bad idea only because it won't be done. So the only ideas that are good are those which are simple and can be done easily. Because if they can't be done easily, believe me, the reason I have gray hair is over time I've found out those things which look really easy are really hard. And those things that look hard can't be done. So if rookies think that, or young folks think, okay, I can do this impossible thing. No, it's not going to happen. Find the right idea. That's where you should really go. So, we looked at, for example, in our organization, this idea of useful, this is how we do it. Somebody comes to me and says, I've got a project. So my first question is it useful? And how? And if it's not useful, it better be entertaining. And if it's not useful and it's not entertaining, there's only one basket left, and that's useless. So if we keep things that simple, it's amazing that if you apply this to all the things we do every day. For example, you folks are here. Is it useful? You have to ask that. A lot of times people come to conferences and you ask them, why did you come to this conference? I came last year. Great reason. Is it useful? No. So, we looked at philanthropy and a few years ago and said, what are those simple things without which all of the other stuff is just useless? There's only a couple things. And if you don't do those, all the talk and all the fancy, speeches and so on are useless. And we found out the real issue in the world was water. So what we did was put together this. It's called Skunkworks, but most people here probably don't know what it is. What it is a bunch of crazy inventors and mad scientists. We hired them. We don't care if they have a degree. We don't care if they, all the fancy, mobs of PhDs rarely ever come up with anything good. What we needed was people who actually have done stuff. So we got these people, and today, I really don't like announcing stuff that is 5 years away. People announce stuff, and it's never going to happen. It's just pipe dreams. We have it to a point where we can purify water cheaper than anyone. We have it working. It actually will be launched first of the year. It is the biggest project in the world because without water, at least from what I've read, 1 billion people are going to die in the next 25, 30 years. The rich will just move. The poor will just die. So if you don't have water, you don't have food, and everything else, all of everything, is just nonsense beyond that. So it again is the simple thinking of its definitions of what is charity, what is useful. I'll give you examples, not in the process, and just to give you examples how we think of things and how everything should be thought of in that way. Somebody was talking to me yesterday and saying, the most overused word in industry and in all fields, is innovation. Every other word, used to be strategy and still is, but the other word is innovation. And I found out that nobody really understands what that word means. It's amazing how many people use it and don't have a clue. We looked at it and we thought, okay, actually it's three things. And they use the word interchangeably, and it doesn't make any sense. Those words, really, the three things are technology, invention, and the third one we called innovation. Technology, just to give you an example, is like lasers. Laser was invented 60 years ago. In itself, it doesn't do anything useful. When you turn it into an invention, then it's useful. But by itself, it's useless. So that's invention. Now, innovation is simply something you're going to do that you didn't do yesterday that's useful. Now, it could be a 100-years-old idea. It doesn't need to be new. Who said new is better? Everybody also, that's another. Everything new is better. That's not true at all. That's nonsense. So we look at it just in simplest terms. And we found out that just being simple has changed everything. So these three words, innovation, defined what we did. For example, we realized we're a business. Why do we care about technology? We want invention. And what happens is those who don't realize it chase after technology. Meanwhile, there's enough technology in the world that you could not, for 50 years, if you used it, you would have more businesses still that you could run, that you could invent. So we created this group that has come to solve some of the biggest problems in the world. It doesn't, there's assumptions made that mobs of people will do more than a few people. Well, that's not true either. If you look throughout history, who's come up with the greatest inventions? It's just a couple of guys. It's always been a couple of guys. No major invention that I know of has been made by 1,000 PhDs getting together. Not one. And yet, the way we chase it is, let's get 1,000, let's get 2,000. If we don't spend 8% of our money in R&D, then we're worse than the guy who spends 4%. What is this, brains by the pound? It doesn't make any sense. So we found some of the smartest people who were tinkerers that nobody respected because they didn't have PhD from MIT. These guys were, my only qualification when I told the guy who was recruiting, I said, make sure their garage doesn't have a car. Their garage better be filled with junk that they're all inventing. That's what we wanted. And these guys went about doing it in a simple way. So not only have we got water, which we also have a second, third generation already started in that area, where we will be able to do water with a trickle of energy, which will change everything. And then the other things, the two things we looked at, and we're working on them, is one is we figured out a healthcare appliance that will affect 70 to 80% of all disease. It's amazing. It's too simple. Again, I found out that we're the only guys that have resources that go towards simple. Everybody has resources goes towards more complicated. So we found out we're the only, in this pond, we're the only guys fishing, which is awesome because the pond is full of fish. So some of the things in our concepts were this. I have a few companies. One of them became really successful, and we make a product called 5-Hour Energy. And then I realized, oh my God, I got ridiculous amounts of money. What am I going to do with this thing? So, some people ask me, why did you? I think it was the Gates Foundation. They're giving pledge. They asked me, what is it? Why did you decide to give it away? I said, look, I only have two choices. Either I give it to somebody who needs it more, or I wreck my son's life. Let's see. So I decided, people say, oh, you did a great thing. I said, no, I didn't do a great thing. I don't have a choice. Either I wreck his life, wreck my life, or I give it away. So we decided to do that. And today, we decided to do it in India because you can't do the world. I mean, I don't have that much money. But we are today probably the largest charity in India. And we did it, and again, very simply. What we did is found out that what did we know about charity, and found out we don't know anything. So we said, all right, let's find guys who do know something. So we adopted people who are doing great things. So today we have adopted somewhere between 350 and 400 charities. So we're the largest charity in India. Our budget currently, and this is just from my little business, is the budget is $100 million a year. Now, the bad part, the sad part, is we're spending a fraction of it because we also found out something really interesting. Is in order to affect a poor person, you need very little money. I mean, let's say they make $2 a day. Another dollar changes their whole life. So, for example, we're funding some, cataracts is a huge problem in India. The average lifespan of a person who goes blind by cataracts is 1.5 years. Basically, they rot and they die. So we said, okay, that's a big area. And we have millions of these people. So this incredible hospital does cataract surgery and their costs are $10. So now you can fix a blind person for $10. You didn't need $1 billion. Now, 100 million, of course, goes quite a bit ways. And I've already announced that 90% of my whatever I make is going to go to charity. And I think that will grow because we've got these other projects which will actually, somebody asked me, is this nonprofit what you're doing? I said, no, I don't look at it that way. Look at the fundamental way, which is it helping the poor? So I can do water, but nobody has enough money to do water all over the world. So the interesting part is we're actually going to make money and help the poor. So is that charity? No. Now, 90% of what I make from that is going to go back to charity, but it's a simple way. It's a way to execute, which you can't do any other way. So that's, the thing about execution is, again, ideas to action. Action, really, what they really mean is execution. And I'm big on definitions. So the definition of execution is recruiting. 90% definition is recruiting. If you get great people, they're going to figure out and get it done. If you hire dummies, no matter how great your program, they will mess it up. So really, it's all about recruiting. And then the few things is that motivation and direction. Now, for example, in our mad scientist arena, these are great people, but the thing about scientists and engineers is, almost to a person, is they make really cool stuff, but it's completely useless. Okay. So what we did was say, no, look, guys, if you're going to work here, what we're going to do is that which is for the poor. And if all you want is to make money, go to Silicon Valley. We're not interested. And we found amazing people who are interested in doing something of value that's going to change the world. We have some other projects that I won't announce now that are much bigger than even this, if it's possible. I didn't think it was possible, but we have technologies and even invention to a point where, and I'll talk to you about it next year. Not at TED probably, but some other way. Thank you very much.